Welcome to today's episode. Today's episode is going to be quite unique. It's a special episode that the team at We Need to Talk podcast by Gather Now Network thought it was wise for me to come by here and have a highlight of the 10 episodes that we have so far released. It's quite a milestone for us because so often we put out episodes, but in different ways that we don't hit like a 10 consistent episodes that we release. But this time around, the team is solid. The team is like, yep, we got this going. So on the 10th episode, we decided to have a sit down with you where I share my highlights of the guests that we've had, what stood out for me as we had these conversations, and that is going to be today's episode. I hope you can also share with me right here. Scan this QR code and you can share with me what is been your guest highlight in the 10 episodes that we've had so far. What's that one thing that stood out for you as we had these conversations? We've had like various guests that really so important in the community, but also they have lived a life that they share these experiences with us, and I'm sure that you get to learn a thing or two in there as you watch or listen to this conversation. So scan this QR code and you can join me on this episode that we're having today. To start off, I don't want to take a lot of time talking about a lot of things, because if I started talking about, here and there, we might end up not getting into this. So to start off with the first guest, I have, who do I have on my list? I have Moses Ochodo. That's the previous episode that we had. I went on my Instagram and I said, this is one of the best conversations that I've had so far with my guests. And people roasted me. They were like, okay, so you mean the rest of the guests that we've had on the podcast have not been important? No, that's not what I meant. What I tried to mean was it really resonated with me in terms of like pain, in terms of like education. Others call it education. I'll say education. But in terms of like how we get to go through things, painful things, and when we come on top of those things as successful people, or when we beat such a scenario, we have a reason to celebrate. And Moses was a true embodiment of this. He beat cancer as a child, being able to be diagnosed with cancer during his childhood. He went through a lot of pain. I don't have to speak a lot about this. Let me just watch this clip with me so that when I come back, you can be able to see. I'll get into my guest highlight in this episode. Watch this clip.
There was a day when one of the doctors was coming to collect blood samples from me, because the doctors always needed to kind of keep tabs with how the treatment is progressing. And previously I used to fight when a needle would enter my hand. And I remember that one day I just put my hand out and let him draw the blood that he wanted. And the doctor asked me, "Are you okay?" And I told him, whatever fight I have, whatever situation I thought I have in terms of fighting this, I honestly do not think that I have it in me to fight what is inevitable. You need my blood either way. The needle is going to enter me anyway. And so we might as well get done with it so I can go back to rest. I think that was a turning point for me. That's when I reached a point of whatever happens, let it happen. I must also say that was a point where I learned how to accept death. Everyone struggles with accepting death. I learned how to accept death. I learned that death is inevitable for all of us. I learned that no matter what you do, when your time does eventually come, you will have no option but to go. Regardless, whether you're a believer in God, whether you're a non-believer, whether you're an atheist, it doesn't matter. When your time comes, it has come and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it.
That is my highlight from this episode. Moses' story is really one that opens up like a hard important conversation of accepting death, accepting pain, learning how to live fully with it. And even when life feels like uncertain, you get to live a life that is full of like harmony, joy, and happiness, even when you've gone through a lot of like trauma, a lot of like hardships, a lot of pain. So his treatment journey really was one that, we all have been in scenarios where we either have a friend who is very sick or a relative who's very sick, or we have lost someone, and that pain gets to live with us. Being able to overcome that pain, is something that is a journey for all of us. We go about differently. And Moses was, his story is one that teaches us that at the end of the day, something always comes up. You just have to keep being hopeful. You just have to, lean into that pain, live with it, sit with it. At the end of the day, when it goes away, you'll have reason to celebrate. You don't have to keep encountering that, stress that it caused to you. Learn how to celebrate it. And that's Moses' story, surrendering how pain causes, a different chapter of your story, but instead, when it has all gone away, you have reason to celebrate. It gives me a chance to celebrate every little success after pain. This is like the highlight for me that I learned through this episode that I had conversation with him. So it gave me like survival ways of like how to celebrate things when I overcome pain, when I overcome something that everyone thinks is gonna kill you. I guess the question that I have for you from this highlight is, if life can change at any time, what are you postponing that you should start living right now? Okay, so let me know by either commenting in the comment section, or when you scan this QR code, just let me know what's that one thing that if life right now changed, what is that one thing that you postpone to next day or to next year for you to start living right now, for you to start celebrating the life you have right now? Okay. My second, I'm just going to be going through all this. I don't want this episode to be long. They gave me only 15 minutes. I don't know how how long I'm going to take, but I have 10 guests to go through and share my highlight. My other guest, or my second guest that I have on the podcast as we had a conversation, was Belinda Katumba, as she always calls herself, Muna Kampala. I really enjoyed this conversation because, one, I found to be someone who is really outgoing in terms of like openness, but also she is someone who's building an impactful way of how to engage young adults through her community of Can We Talk 256, through cards, through games. It's really, really important for young adults to have conversations. And I guess that's why even us here at We Need to Talk, when we had this conversation, or when we approached her, we're like, from We Need to Talk, and it's like, we need to talk and we talk. That's quite a rhyming. But yeah, when we're having this conversation, for me, Belinda's conversation reminded me that you can explore vulnerability differently, but also it gave me questions on how we perceive vulnerability. Are we really being vulnerable, or are we just playing around? So watch this clip with me, and when I come back, we can get deeper into that.
Most people, when they hear vulnerability, they think oversharing, which I don't think is the same thing. I think vulnerability is anything, for me, is anything that I do that puts me out of my comfort zone, that allows you to see a part of myself that maybe I have shame around, or that it's just allowing me to see a part of me. The length and the depth of that is dependent on environment and the person. Meaning, the vulnerability I have with you on this podcast may not be the same level of vulnerability I reach with my friends, right? vulnerability doesn't
Right.
mean that if I come on here, I need to share everything with you. No, I could be vulnerable on here and share parts of myself that people didn't know or that are true to me or things that I usually wouldn't share. But I can also choose to share some things within the safety of my friendships. And that's
Yeah.
a deeper level of vulnerability. So for me, that's one of the biggest things, that vulnerability is not oversharing. It's just allowing yourself to be seen. And that looks different. For example, our team edition, where you at work, vulnerability doesn't look the same at work as it does at home, because when you're at work, you still have to remember that you're in a workplace and there's politics at play and all these things. But does that mean that you'll never be vulnerable? Maybe vulnerability looks like taking a risk and speaking up about an idea in a meeting, right?
Yeah.
Because that's exposing you to rejection. They may reject your idea. So that's vulnerability, but it doesn't mean that I have to cry at work if I'm not comfortable too. So that's my definition of vulnerability.
Okay, so from this clip, how honest can we be when we're being vulnerable? Are we being really vulnerable for the essence of us being better, or we pretending to be vulnerable? So for me, having this conversation was one way of like really, exploring the vulnerability part. I almost cried on this episode. She almost made me cry for a minute, as we go deeper into the conversation. But sometimes I think we just have to explore vulnerability differently, and this can be through, the environment that you're in, that a person that you're talking to, or journaling, or just through music, or anything that can make you feel vulnerable, for you to share the real feeling that you have in that moment, because it releases you from a lot of things. Okay, so this conversation was really, really one that I held dearly, that I listen to each time that I feel like I need to, pick myself, the different pieces that have been shattered, and pick them up together. This is the conversation that for you, even you, let me know what you think by, scanning this link here, or just comment in the comment section and let me know, how do you be vulnerable realistically? From what Belinda shared here, do you think we are being vulnerable in the essence of being vulnerable, or we just playing around? So she shares more about also like how we meet people and we start trauma dumping our problems at first time, and we're thinking that we're being vulnerable. Yeah. So how best can we be able to be vulnerable? But I guess the question that I want to leave for you with this highlight is, are you able to be vulnerable, or are you using your pain to test people whether they will stay? Are you being able to, be vulnerable for the sake of, being open to that person on how you feel, on what you're going through, or you're being vulnerable for the sake of like, okay, if I share my story, if I share what I'm going through, this person will stay with me. You want to infringe on that weakness. So let me know what you think. And moving on from the vulnerability part with Belinda Katumba, by the way, the conversation was really very important, because every time I listen to that conversation, it just, clicks a few bells each time I listen to it. Yeah. So for the next episode that I had, who do we have? We have Evelyn Chironde. This guest was loved by everyone, from me, the entire team, the audience. You've watched this episode. I think right now we have over 20K views from this episode, I believe. I haven't checked in a while, but the last time I checked was 15 something. And then I kept on hearing the team telling me this episode is shooting in the full roof. But Evelyn was sharing her story as Miss International Uganda, when she went to Japan to represent Uganda, and also like as a young woman who's starting up business and being able to navigate the terrain of the business environment in Uganda. She was sharing about how she overcomes, or how she goes about all this. And for me, my highlight was this. Watch this with me.
With social media and everything, people have like a lot of expectations. People see these things on the media and believe you're living a perfect life. There's a way people, I don't know, like exaggerate. They expect that if you have these 2 businesses running, you should be rich, you should have apartments, you should have flats, you should be driving Range Rovers. So that's a little pressure of, oh my God, people think I actually have bags and bags of money back home. I need to work harder than I'm actually working now. So like really, yeah, people's expectations, people projecting their expectations to your life, thinking, okay, people are going to be disappointed if they ever find out this is as much as I have. So then, you're thinking to yourself, what should I do? Like, what more should I do to make sure I have as much as what people think I have?
Evelyn's story or Evelyn's conversation reminds me how people watch you from far and they think that you're doing okay or you're doing better. They create a certain perception in their head of you, which is like right now the current world, because every young person is trying to show a better life on social media. Every young adult is trying to show that they're doing better. They post highlights of themselves in a better format. And those that post, are real or genuine, where they are taken to be, for lack of a better word, beggars or, pretenders, like acting pretense. But the reality is we are all living that whole, feeding of the machine that creates a certain perception. The machine I'm talking about, social media, that creates a certain perception for the person outside the screen, and they also create a perception of us in their head. And it creates like a whole, narrative that we should be living like that. But in real essence, we supposed to be living the way we're supposed to be living. I'm supposed to be me when I'm living without any pressure. So I guess the question that I'm leaving for you right now with Evelyn's episode, or from my highlight from Evelyn's conversation, is who are you trying to prove yourself to? And do they even matter? Do that person who you're trying to prove, do they matter in your life? Do they matter in what you're doing? So that's my highlight, or that was my highlight. Let me know, what was your highlight in Evelyn's episode? If you haven't watched that episode, pause this video, go watch that episode, and maybe you can come back later to this video and let me know about your highlight. But also you can leave that highlight of yourself in the comment section, or just scan. I think the team will leave the QR code glued on the screen, so that each time you feel like letting me know about your highlight, just scan the QR code and let me know about your highlight. What do we have next? We have Shiba Ntaratambi. Wow, that was quite an episode. The journey of meditation. I'm trying to learn how to meditate. The other day I posted on my Instagram, and I was like, one of the things that I'm trying to get better at is focusing. I'm really bad at focusing at something, one thing like this, and get it done. My head is always spinning with around like 40 things at the same time. I need this to be done. I need this to be done. I need this to be done. And I find myself like I have very many pages open and I can't focus on one. Shiva's episode, we had this one time. But you know what? Before I share that, watch this clip with me.
The solutions are not outside. The solutions are not with you getting a job. The solution is not getting married. The solution is not working out and getting body goals. You attain all those things and you'll still feel empty. You'll still feel lost. Yeah, they will be very pleasing and exciting in the beginning, but guess what? After the novelty wears off, you're back to your old empty self. So find yourself. Find the joy that's within you, that's waiting to be acknowledged, and make that inner space within you very good to be, because you'll be there a lot. Make it a nice place. And unlearn things that don't serve you anymore. Things of the past. The past is the past. Release it. Learn what you needed to learn and move on. Move on.
I was going to share, before you watch this clip, I was going to share, we had this one time in the episode where we had like 3 minutes of meditation and we were doing it live on air or live on record. No, The live on recording does not apply. We did it live on the show. Okay, let me just say that. And it was really peaceful. It was me finding my place of happiness in that moment. It was me finding my inner peace in that moment. And I guess the question I will leave for you guys when you watch this episode or when you go out there and watch this episode, because I believe you, after watching this, you will go out there and watch this episode. The question is your inner life a safe place for you to live in? Can you go in that place and live into your inner life? Are you happy in that inner life? That's the question I have for you. Let me know when you scan the code, the QR code, not the code, the QR code. It's still a code. Yeah. Okay, when you scan this, let me know in the comment section as well. Like, if you went into that deeper space, in your inner space, are you happy there? Are you? Yeah. Anyway, moving on. See, time is the 15 minutes they gave me are like, woof, my brother, you must be getting done. This was just a highlight phase, not for you to go on and on and on and on. We had Dr. Stephen Mugabe, who is a dentist, and this episode told to me, you might think that I learned more about how to take care of my teeth and all that. Yes, I did. But this was my highlight from that episode.
I think my biggest mistake was assuming that I knew business. So I started a practice and I got into debt because of rent. I signed a contract of rent in dollars, and I wasn't earning in dollars. And within 1 year of starting the practice, the dollar rate against the Uganda shilling moved from 2,500 shillings to 3,500 and never went back. So I found myself paying 1 million more in rent than what I'd signed up for. So that's what started choking my business. I didn't have enough clients to cover that rent.
Yeah.
And I started getting into lots of debt. The good thing is I had networks which were helping me sustain me because I have many friends and I was calling on them to help. I have many relatives who are very supportive. Without them, I don't know where I would have been. But that was a very big mistake. I would never sign another contract in dollars when I am not earning in dollars. In that contract, I signed that I should get a $400 fine every month I'm delayed to pay. So those were all the mistakes of not knowing exactly what I was going into. Just because you have a skill as a dentist or as a barista, it doesn't mean you know the coffee business. You have to educate yourself about the trends. When do people buy? What do they buy? Which people are buying? Who has the buying power? All that, you have to do your research and that can be easily done with mentors, because we have mentors in there. There are people who have done this before you. Just humble yourself and go and learn from them. They're usually willing to teach.
Yes, that episode taught me how to take a leap of researching before you start doing something. You know, signing something that will lead you into trouble just because you never researched. Him being able to start paying in dollars and yet it doesn't earn in dollars. That was like something, throwing yourself into a river thinking it is just, shallow, not deep, and you don't know how to get out of it. You get. So for me, that highlight was really, really key, especially in today's world where we just want to move on to the next thing. They've brought for you papers you have to read through. You're like, you sign, forgetting you might be signing away your life. So Dr. Stephen Mugabe's episode was really important because it gave me that narrative of like how we are all trying to do businesses as young adults, but we forget to look into those simple details or make research on a few things that might affect our journey of becoming better business people or becoming better human beings on what we're doing. So let me know what was your highlight in this episode. Moving on to Duncan Austin's episode. This was the episode that really gotten into my science part of life, like how we use our brains to be productive. Duncan is a performance coach who is based in Ireland, and having this conversation with him made me realize the power of believing in people. We all have an item in life that a certain kind of person cannot be able to, perform this. So what's my highlight from Duncan's episode?
There's so much value in a person who is really thriving in their work, like value to the company. So, for example, that person who is maybe hard of hearing or visually impaired, that person may be the most brilliant person in the city, or maybe they're in a wheelchair. But Stephen Hawking was in a wheelchair, right? Had to speak through an aid, a computerized aid. He's the most brilliant physicist, maybe second to Einstein. So if your company is excluding those people because you don't have ramps and you're not making some accommodations, which are easy accommodations to make, you may be excluding some of the most brilliant people around, and your competition, who is accommodating them, will get them, right? So the way I like to the way I look at those sorts of things is each person, there is so much potential in each person. If we can find the way your brain lights up, and if we can get you to bring your shape of excellence, which is absolutely unique to you, to the company. If you're a manager or you're a boss and you have to fire somebody because they're not doing the job well, it's not that they're a bad worker, it's that you couldn't find the right role for them in the company. And it's a different way of thinking about it, because there is so much in each person. We just have to find the right way to use each person to match each person to the work that needs to be done in the company. And if we're excluding people because of things that are so easy to not exclude, then there's all of that value we're excluding, and I think that makes no sense.
So yes, the highlight for me in this episode was, if you can find something that makes you happy in the job you're doing, or if you can find something as a manager or as a founder that brings joy in the people that you're leading, these people will live a successful life, they will be productive, and we shall stop judging people depending on what they can do. This episode really is for managers, founders, people who want to be productive by fine-tuning their brain or by switching on their brains. It was more of that kind of episode whereby you can stop your brain from just thinking all negative things at some point and move on to thinking positively to be productive. What's the next guest that we have today? We have KK. Oh, KK, my God, this episode was fun. This episode was fun. KK is one guy who is always fun. That's one. Of course, he's a humorous guy. We had a serious conversation. It wasn't just about being humorous, actually, with KK. And my highlight was this.
To be honest, bro, the loneliness thing is something it's our fault. It's something we have brought onto ourselves by being too smart. Being too smart means the world has sold us having the latest gadgets, having the PS5, having the huge flat screen. It basically means now a guy gets an apartment. After campus, you get an apartment, 1 bedroom, get your big screen, your PS5, your Netflix, you get your Pornhub subscription. Yep. And then you have social media. So you have all these friends you've never met around the world. But you're all buddies, you DM each other, you follow people you've never met. Now you have AI models, you have everything else. So everything is happening on screens in your house. The humanity bit of it, just connecting, loving, has just made us so... And look at the divorce numbers. Look, we can break up, it's okay, because the last 2 years of that relationship, they're both on their phones. So technology has ruined us. We talked about Facebook and how it's how it broke up marriages. You think about WhatsApp and Instagram and all these things. Why did you like our post? So couples are splitting, kids are disconnected. Technology, this generation's cancer. You're gonna have funeral services where there's a casket, a pastor, and a camera for people to watch you on Zoom in their homes.
So talking to KK, for me, there are a lot of things that came out, but the sense of isolation, especially for young adults, we are being isolated right now, and it has caused a lot of an isolation pandemic. We are living behind the screen every time. He used an example of how we are going to start burying our friends on screen. You've lost your friend, and we're streaming how we're streaming the barrier process, and you're burying through the screen. You get. So isolation is something that can be able to create a certain sense of, loneliness. And we all know a lonely mind leads to no good. It leads to no good. So the question that I will leave for you guys after this highlight or through this highlight is, what comes... No, that was Duncan's question. I don't know why I didn't give you Duncan's question. Here's Duncan's question actually to ponder on. What comes naturally to you that you keep ignoring because it does not look impressive? Okay? So if you're watching Duncan's episode, think about that question. Then for the KK question that I want to leave for you from my highlight is, are you truly connected or are you just always online? Like every time you're just online, you're just, messaging people, you're just scrolling through Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube, anywhere, Can you take time to be connected with someone? All right. Let's move on to our next guest. That was Anthea Ibembe. Oh my God. Very many women love this episode for some reason. I've met various women who highlight this episode as one of their best episodes that they have watched on our YouTube channel or they have listened to, just because of what she shared. But here's what my highlight was from Anthea.
Neuroplasticity has shown us that we can change everything about our reality. Why then do they conform? Is it weakness of mind? And then why do some people have the innate ability to change everything that they can? So for me, I find this very fascinating. Everything around conformity and that feeling of stagnation, because I experience it a lot in the social life in Uganda. You meet people who say, but it's like that, we can't change it. But it's like this, it has always been like this. But it's what you do. It's just what you do. And I find this, I would like someone to answer this for me from a perspective of a conservative person, because I'm on the liberal side of things. So the answer is, I don't understand. Just change it. I would want someone to tell me the nuances of why can't it change?
We are all living in a world that takes away every time that we are, trying to focus. And neuroplasticity, when she mentioned that, from that episode, I went online and started reading more about it. And it's very important for us to have a neuroplastic brain, because it helps us, stay grounded, stay true to ourselves, remember things that, matter to us. So the question that I have for you, okay, from my highlight, even you can let me know about your highlight from this episode. The episode is live on YouTube. But my highlight that I have for you, or the question that I have for you is, what would you change if you believed your mind could learn a new way of living? If you woke up one day, and you know that your mind can learn something new and you can live with it, what would you change? And the next guest that we had was Wanda JR. Y'all love this episode. Wanda has brought something new to the Ugandan scene. The epitome of care for a man or for a boy child. But before we go deeper into that, this was my highlight.
I didn't know what freedom was. When everything has been stripped away from you and all you know is being in a space where you're controlled, and you long to see people in normal clothes and looking kawa and that made me have a sense of what freedom truly is. And freedom is not just walking out. Freedom is in the mind. You don't have to be in a physical prison to be in a prison. You can be in a psychological prison. And in a space like Africa, I'm a strong believer that our problems are not economical. They're not economic. It's psychological. We have been put in psychological prisons for too long, and we've been enslaved. And I think that's what Bob Marley meant.
Yeah.
That mental slavery is in the mind, and it's the hardest to unlock because you're fed. It's in your DNA. It's in your blood. To the point that there's cognitive. In social media with cognitive dissonance.
All right.
You've been fed something. There's something called the mere exposure effect. That psychological phenomenon where you're repeatedly fed the same thing, that it becomes difficult to even accept a different alternative. And that's why all these agendas that are fed to us, and they're heavily funded, heavily weaponized.
Right.
And we don't even know. So us, we're just stuck. We're on vibes. We're on vibes, nobody mututwala, but we're on vibes because these people's agenda is here. And when they get you here, you're cooked.
How do you change those old beliefs that you have in yourself for you to live a better life? Okay. How do you become a better human being? How do you become someone who is so impactful in the community? And to do that, you have to free yourself from anything that's trapping you in your mind. And the question that I have for you in this episode, or in this highlight on this episode today, is what prison have you built in your mind and started calling normal? These questions that I'm leaving are just for you to ponder on. Like, each time you watch this or each time you listen to such a thing, you ask yourself this question. It will help you like get some answers or to put you on a quest of like getting better in life. And the last guest I want to say is Asmahani Saad. A conversation that we had about identity, but here was my highlight from Asma's episode.
And then I go before this officer and they are just ripping me apart, knowingly or unknowingly. I'm with my children. She is speaking to me in a very demeaning manner. Oh, you're not a Ugandan. Are you this? You know what? I'm not convinced. Speaking Lukonzo, I'm like, okay, call your father. I'm like, this is my third or fourth passport. I am a grown woman. How do I start making a phone call to daddy? That daddy, I'm here at the passport office. Come and help me. Like, it was just not making sense. The way citizenship is defined, it's not by profiling someone. It's not by telling me to speak Luganda or Lukonzo, and if I can't, then I'm not a Ugandan citizen. That is very wrong. It's also a systemic issue because there is a process. By the time you get to the passport office of Uganda, you must have a national ID. The national ID is what is grassroots, if I can call it that popular word. It is the grassroots identification. Maybe you've gotten it from your place of birth or you've gotten it from your residency. People know you. Now you come to this office and you have everything that is required by law. You have your national ID, you have your LC, you know that form that they give us at the passport office. LC1, sub-county. I got all these details. My dad, actually the file we use at the passport office is from my grandfather's file. So you can imagine it has run in the family. It's a huge file.
It's been there for generations.
I have I had two passports. I was just I was just swapping that for the East African passport when they had just launched them. I have a national ID, valid. And this person is looking at what the law and everything is saying, and they decide to put it aside.
I'm sure this episode, for you all guys who have watched this episode, you will find it more important, especially when it comes to parenting, to finding identity, and how you can be helpful into the community when you identify yourself. Okay, Asma shares more about like her experience when she was trying to get passport at the Internal Affairs, and how it really took her identity away as a human being. It was derogatory. It was shameful in front of her kids, but also how identity defines us in life, how we start believing a few things just because we've been identified that, okay, you're a Munyoro, you're a Munyankole, you're a Mukonzo, you are a Mchiga, you're a Muganda, you're a Musoga. And you start like entrapping yourself into that whole world and forgetting that that's defining you to a point whereby you're not going to be able to be helpful just because a Muganda behaves like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, identity is good, especially when you identify with a certain tribe, a certain region, a certain culture. It keeps us grounded. But then when it comes to a place where it's failing us as a system, that's where I have questions. That's where we find challenges. And I guess the questions that I have, or the question, not the questions, if I did questions, we'd have like a whole, the question that I have for you is your identity helping you stand as strong? Sorry, I'll say that again. The question that I have for you is your identity helping you stand strong, or has it become something the world uses to limit you? Okay? Just you being identified as, a man or woman, is it limiting you? Just you being identified as a Munyoro or a Mchiga or a Mkonjo or a Munyankole, is it limiting you? just you being identified by a certain title at work, is it limiting you? So think about identity from that perspective and let me know what you think in our comment section. This is something that I really love, especially from the team at We Need to Talk podcasts, for them thinking about a holistic way how we can have a conversation. This is something that we should be, this one here, we should be utilizing for us to have a conversation going even after these episodes have been uploaded. So let me know what you think about all these 10 episodes. We decided to have this special episode aired today or published today because we believe we are not creating content for the sake of having episodes out there. No, we are here to show up for each other as one of the best qualities of We Need to Talk or values of We Need to Talk podcasts and Gather Now Network. We need to create a community that shows up for each other. We need to create a community that says, hey, man, you gotta pause, listen, and act in the right way rather than keeping on going, because we keep on asking ourselves what's next, what's next. And in the end of the day, we're going to reach a point and we're like, okay, what's next? And there is no next. Okay, rather than us living in the moment, hoping each other become better human beings, become better people into our communities. Thank you guys for sticking out with me for this. I was supposed to take 15 minutes, but I think I've taken over like 20 minutes. So thank you for sticking out for these minutes with me, and I'll leave the comment section with you. I'll be in the comment section engaging with you guys, but also be here to engage with you on what your highlights were. Don't forget to subscribe to We Need to Talk podcast YouTube channel and Gather Now Network YouTube channel, but also you can follow us on our social media platforms everywhere. It's We Need to Talk podcast, Instagram, TikTok, and no, Twitter. We're not on Twitter, but on Twitter you can follow me personally. That's at Amani Mukisa. But also, you can also follow us on all podcast streaming platforms. That's Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You'll be able to get us there. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Until we meet next time,